Welcome to Ethos Trek. I'm Sarah, and today we're beginning something important. A deep examination of a psychological phenomenon that's reshaping democracies around the world, fracturing families, and fueling a kind of political radicalization we haven't seen in generations. We're going to talk about collective narcissism. Now, you might be thinking, we're calling people narcissists? Isn't that just name calling? No, this isn't about insults. This is about a well-researched psychological construct with over 15 years of peer-reviewed study behind it. Research that explains patterns of behavior we're watching unfold in real time. This series, The Narcissism of Nations, will take you through the psychology, the history, the present-day parallels, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it. Because at Ethos Trek, we don't just inform. We think critically, and then we act. Let's begin with the science. What is collective narcissism? The foundational research on collective narcissism comes from Dr. Agnieszka Golec de Zavala, a professor at Goldsmiths, University of London, who has spent nearly 2 decades studying this phenomenon. Her definition is precise. Quote, collective narcissism is an emotional investment in an unrealistic belief about the in-group's greatness, a belief that the group is exceptional, but not sufficiently recognized by others, unquote. Let me break that down, because every word matters. Emotional investment. This isn't casual affiliation. It's identity-level attachment. Your self-worth becomes contingent on the group's status. Unrealistic belief. Not just pride, but an inflated, exaggerated sense that the group is superior to all others. Not sufficiently recognized. And this is the key. The world isn't giving the group the credit it deserves. Someone is always failing to acknowledge the group's greatness, threatening it, or actively conspiring against it. This last piece, the belief that recognition is being withheld, creates a permanent grievance, a wound that never heals because it's not based on any actual solvable problem. It's a psychological posture. What collective narcissism is not. Here's something critical the research establishes. Collective narcissism is not the same thing as healthy group pride. Researchers distinguish between collective narcissism and what they call, quote, in-group satisfaction, unquote, or, quote, collective self-esteem, unquote, a stable, secure sense that your group is valuable without requiring constant external validation. Think about it this way. You can love your country, take pride in your heritage, feel connected to your community, without believing that your group is under constant siege, without needing everyone else to acknowledge your superiority, and without becoming hostile toward anyone who doesn't. The research is clear on this point. When researchers control for healthy in-group satisfaction, collective narcissism uniquely predicts hypersensitivity to perceived threats, conspiracy theory belief, intergroup hostility and prejudice, support for retaliatory aggression, attraction to authoritarian leaders who promise to restore the group's rightful status. There are 4 pillars of collective narcissism. Let's examine the core components, the psychological architecture that makes this phenomenon so dangerous. Pillar 1. Hypersensitivity to perceived threats. Collective narcissists don't just notice criticism. They actively scan for it. They interpret ambiguous situations as threatening. They perceive insults where none were intended. Dr. Golitz de Zavala's research documents what she calls a, quote, black and white, zero-sum perception of intergroup situations, unquote. In this worldview, if another group gains, your group loses. If someone questions your group, they're attacking it. If your leader is criticized, the entire group is being persecuted. This creates a defensive crouch that never relaxes. You're always fighting, always under siege, and here's the psychological trap. Because the threat is internal, a fragile sense of group worth that needs constant defending, no amount of external success can resolve it. Pillar 2. Intergroup aggression as defense. When collective narcissists feel threatened, they don't retreat, they attack. But crucially, they frame this aggression as defensive. The research shows that collective narcissism predicts what's called, quote, retaliatory aggression, unquote. Hostility that's justified as responding to provocation. Quote, we're not attacking them. We're defending ourselves from their constant attacks on us, unquote. This reframing is psychologically important because it allows the aggression to feel righteous. You're not the aggressor. You're the victim finally fighting back. Studies show collective narcissism predicts unwillingness to forgive outgroups, preference for military rather than diplomatic solutions, and, this is significant, what researchers call schadenfreude, pleasure in the suffering of perceived enemy groups. Pillar 3. Self-entitlement as collective destiny. Collective narcissism involves a profound sense that the group deserves special treatment, that it should be recognized, respected, and given deference simply because of what it is. This isn't earned pride based on achievements. It's a baseline entitlement that precedes anything the group actually does. The group is great because it is great. The greatness is inherent, essential, part of the group's very nature. When this entitlement isn't confirmed by the outside world, when the other groups don't automatically defer, it's experienced as an injustice. The world is failing to give the group what it rightfully deserves. Pillar 4. The necessity of a mirror-focused, charismatic leader. Here's where it gets particularly relevant to our current moment. Research consistently shows that collective narcissism predicts attraction to a very specific type of leader, what we might call a, quote, mirror leader, unquote. Someone who reflects and magnifies the group's grandiosity back to them. These leaders don't just represent the group's interests, they embody the group's self-image. When you attack the leader, you're attacking every member of the group personally. The leader's enemies become personal enemies. The leader's grievances become your grievances. A 2024 study published in Group Processes and Intergroup Relations found that national collective narcissists have what researchers call, quote, a predilection toward ruthless rulers willing to disrupt democratic systems, unquote. Not despite the ruthlessness, because of it. The willingness to break rules is interpreted as strength on behalf of the group. The need for chaos. Recent research has identified another disturbing correlation. Collective narcissism is strongly associated with what psychologists call, quote, the need for chaos, unquote, a motivation to tear down existing social structures and hierarchies. Let me quote from the research directly. The need for chaos is, quote, a desire for a new beginning through the destruction of order and established structures that emerges from the interplay between dominance-oriented traits and marginalized states, unquote. The researchers emphasize, quote, people high in need for chaos are not idealists seeking to tear down the established order so that they can build a better society for everyone, unquote. Instead, they want to, quote, unleash chaos and mobilize individuals against the established order that fails to accord them the respect that they feel they personally deserve, unquote. That fails to accord them the respect that they feel they personally deserve. This isn't about building something better. It's about destruction as an end in itself. Destruction that serves the narcissistic wound. If the world won't give us what we deserve, we'll burn it down. Conspiracy theories. The explanatory framework. Meta-analytic research establishes a robust link between collective narcissism and conspiracy theory belief. This makes psychological sense. If your group is exceptional and yet isn't being recognized as such, there must be an explanation. Something must be preventing the world from seeing what you see. Conspiracy theories provide that explanation. Hidden forces are working against the group. Powerful enemies are suppressing the truth. The media, the government, the elites. Someone is deliberately preventing your group from achieving its rightful status. This isn't paranoia in the clinical sense. It's a logical extension of the collective narcissistic worldview. If we're great and the world doesn't see it, the world must be rigged. Now, here's where we put on our critical thinking caps. Let's engage with some questions this research raises. Question 1. Is this just rebranding political disagreement as pathology? This is a fair concern. We should be very careful about medicalizing political views we disagree with. But here's what the research shows. Collective narcissism is measured independently of political content. It's not about what you believe. It's about how you hold those beliefs. It's about the psychological posture, not the policy positions. Collective narcissism has been documented across political ideologies, across nations, across religious and ethnic groups. It's a human tendency, not a partisan one. The research has found collective narcissism in Polish nationalists, American conservatives, and liberals, religious groups, racial groups, anywhere group identity becomes inflated and defensive. Question 2. What about legitimate grievances? This is crucial. Some groups have real, documented histories of persecution, marginalization, and injustice. Doesn't focusing on collective narcissism dismiss legitimate complaints? The researchers address this directly. They emphasize that collective narcissism is distinct from awareness of genuine discrimination. You can acknowledge real injustice, historic and ongoing, without developing a narcissistic investment in your group's superiority. The difference lies in the response. Does awareness of injustice lead to demands for equality, for the same rights and recognition as others? Or does it fuel demands for supremacy, for more than others deserve. Healthy responses to real grievances seek parity. Collective narcissistic responses seek dominance disguised as justice. Question 3. How do we distinguish patriotism from collective narcissism? The researchers offer a clear distinction. Healthy patriotism or group pride, what researchers call, quote, in-group satisfaction, unquote, is characterized by secure, positive regard for your group. It doesn't require constant validation. It's not threatened by criticism or by acknowledging the group's flaws. It can coexist with respect for other groups. Collective narcissism is characterized by fragility. It needs external validation. It's threatened by any suggestion that the group isn't superior. It can't acknowledge genuine flaws because that would wound the narcissistic investment. You can love your country and want to make it better. You can be proud of your heritage while acknowledging its complicated history. That's healthy. What's not healthy is needing to believe your country has always been perfect, that any suggestion otherwise is an attack, and that critics are enemies who must be defeated. Great. Now, what do we do with this information? Yeah, this is Ethos Trek. We don't just analyze, we mobilize. Individual actions. Learn the collective narcissism scale. Researchers use a validated scale to measure collective narcissism. Familiarize yourself with the items, not to diagnose others, but to recognize the patterns in rhetoric, in media, in the arguments you encounter. The scale includes items like, my group deserves special treatment. I will never be satisfied until my group gets the recognition it deserves. Not many people seem to fully understand the importance of my group. It really makes me angry when others criticize my group. When you hear these themes in political rhetoric, the permanent grievance, the demand for special recognition, the rage at criticism, you're hearing collective narcissism. 2, examine your own group attachments. This isn't about them. We all belong to groups. We all have the capacity for this kind of defensive, inflated attachment. Ask yourself honestly, when my group is criticized, what's my first response? Defense or curiosity? When I think about my group's place in the world, do I feel secure or aggrieved? Can I acknowledge my group's flaws without feeling personally attacked? 3, practice the antidote, mindful gratitude. Now I can hear some of your eyes rolling. Hear me out. It makes sense. The research offers one proven intervention, mindful gratitude practice. A 2024 study found that 6 weeks of daily mindful gratitude practice, just 30 minutes of intentionally focusing on appreciating positive aspects of life, significantly reduced prejudice in people with high levels of collective narcissism. This isn't about being grateful for your group's superiority. It's about cultivating a psychological posture that's secure enough not to need external validation. When you're genuinely grateful for what you have, you're less driven to defend against imaginary threats. Community actions? Build bridges to the truly persuadable. Not everyone in a movement demonstrates collective narcissism. Many people are drawn in by legitimate concerns, economic anxiety, cultural dislocation, genuine grievances, who haven't yet developed the defensive, aggressive posture. Focus on those people. Maintain relationships. Listen to their concerns without dismissing them. Show them that their legitimate frustrations can be addressed without requiring them to embrace a narcissistic worldview. 5. Name the pattern without name-calling. When you see collective narcissism in action, name the pattern, not the person. Quote, that argument relies on the idea that we deserve special treatment, unquote, rather than, quote, you're a narcissist, unquote. Point to the logic, not the label. Help people see the structure of the argument without triggering their defenses. That's our foundation. Understanding collective narcissism isn't about calling people names. It's about recognizing a pattern that's been documented, researched, and shown to predict exactly the kind of political behavior we're watching unfold around us. In our next episode, we're going to look at how this psychology was deliberately weaponized in one of history's darkest chapters, the radicalization of Hitler Youth. Because once you understand how it works, you start to see the playbook. Until then, I'm Sarah, and this is Ethos Trek. Stay informed, stay thoughtful, and stay ready to act.